The twin moons of Europa cast an eerie glow over New Seoul Colony as Kwon-Soo Park pulled his old military jacket tighter round his shoulders. The artificial atmosphere generators hummed in the distance, keeping the mining settlement livable for the 1,000 humans who called this frozen moon home. At 68, Kwon-Soo had seen better days, but his steps remained steady as he walked the familiar path through the industrial district. Beside him, his German shepherd Bomb moved with quiet grace, his thick black and tan coat rippling in the artificial breeze. The dog's ears twitched at every sound. The distant rumble of war processes, the hiss of atmospheric recyclers, the occasional screech of metal on metal from the automated mining equipment. To anyone watching, they looked like just another elderly man and his loyal pet taking their evening walk. The colony had changed dramatically over the past year. What started as a peaceful mining operation had attracted the wrong kind of attention from Earth. Criminal organizations had begun establishing footholds in the outer settlements, taking advantage of the limited security presence. The colonial authority was stretched thin across dozens of worlds, leaving places like New Seoul Colony vulnerable to predators. Kwon-Soo remembered when these streets were safe. Children used to play in the courtyards between the habitat domes. Families would gather in the central plaza for community dinners. Now, most residents locked their doors after sunset and traveled in groups. The mining quotas were still being met. But the human cost was becoming to hide out the abandoned fusion plant loomed ahead, its massive cooling towers reaching toward the star-filled sky. The facility had been shut down 3 years ago after a containment breach, leaving behind a maze of empty corridors and forgotten equipment. It had become a perfect hideout for those who preferred to operate in the shadows. As they approached the plant's perimeter, Bomb's posture changed subtly. His ears perked forward, nostrils flaring as he caught scents that didn't belong. Years of training had taught him to recognize the signs of danger before humans could detect them. His enhanced senses picked up the acrid smell of engine lubricants, the metallic tang of weapons, and the sharp odor of human adrenaline. The sound hit them first, a low humming that seemed to come from everywhere at once. 5. Hoverbikes emerged from behind the massive concrete structures, their anti-gravity engines creating an almost musical drone. The bikes were modified for intimidation, fitted with extra lights and sound amplifiers that made them seem larger and more threatening than they actually were. The riders wore the distinctive red and black leather of the Void Riders, one of the most notorious gangs to migrate from Earth's urban centers. Their leader was immediately recognizable by his cybernetic arms, gleaming chrome replacements that had been enhanced for both strength and intimidation. Burn scars covered half his face, telling the story of some past conflict that had left him more machine than man. Well, what do we have here? The leader called out, his voice amplified by speakers built into his helmet. Old man walking alone in our territory. The bikes formed a perfect circle round Kwon-Soo and Bomb, their engines creating a wall of sound that would mask any calls for help. The other riders dismounted, each one larger and more menacing than the last. Their weapons were visible, shock batons crackling with electrical energy, plasma knives glowing with contained fire, and at least one pulse rifle slung across a shoulder. Kwon-Soo slowly raised his hands, his movements deliberate and non-threatening. I don't want any trouble. Just heading home to my family. Home. The leader laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the fusion plant's walls. This is our street now, old-timer. Everything between the mining station and the habitat domes belongs to the Void Riders. You want to pass through, you pay the toll. The other bikers joined in the laughter, their voices creating a chorus of menace. One of them, a woman with facial tattoos and cybernetic eyes, stepped closer to examine Kwon-Soo more carefully. What's an old fossil like you doing out here anyway? Don't you know it's dangerous after dark? My granddaughter is sick, Quan Su replied quietly. I was getting medicine from the clinic. Medicine, the leader's scarred face twisted into a cruel smile. That sounds expensive. Lucky for you, we accept payment in credits. Jewelry, or anything else of value. The bikers began pulling out their weapons, the shock batons crackling to life with blue electrical arcs. The plasma knives hummed with deadly energy. There contained flames casting dancing shadows on the surrounding walls. The message was clear. Pay up or face the consequences. Throughout the entire confrontation, Bom remained perfectly still beside Quan Su's legs. To the bikers, he looked like nothing more than an ordinary pet. Perhaps slightly larger than average, but otherwise unremarkable. His dark eyes moved constantly, tracking each threat, calculating distances and angles with mechanical precision. The gang had no idea they were about to face something far more dangerous than an elderly Menand. His dog 20 years ago, the name Colonel Quan Su Park struck fear into the hearts of hostile alien species across 3-star systems. Back then, he stood 6 feet tall in his pristine Colonial Defense Force uniform, leading the most elite military unit humanity had ever assembled. The Outer Rim Defense Corps was tasked with one impossible mission: establish human colonies. In sectors where no Earth species had ever survived, Europa had been their first major challenge. The frozen moon wasn't just cold and hostile. It was inhabited. Deep beneath the ice lived the Krillian swarm. Insectoid creatures the size of small vehicles with natural armor plating and acid spitting. Capabilities. When the first mining crews arrived, they lost 30% of their personnel in the first month. That's when the Colonial Authority called in Colonel Park and his special K9 unit. Bom hadn't been chosen randomly from some military breeding program. He was the result of 15 years of genetic enhancement and cybernetic integration, part of Project Guardian, humanity's most classified military experiment. Scientists had taken the loyalty and protective instincts of Earth's greatest companion, animal, and enhanced them with technology that bordered on science fiction. The neural implants weren't just simple computer chips. They were quantum processors that could interface directly with Bom's enhanced brain tissue, allowing him to process tactical information faster than any human soldier. His skeleton had been reinforced with titanium steel alloy, making his bones nearly unbreakable. His muscle density was increased by 40%, and his reflexes were enhanced to superhuman levels. But the most remarkable feature was his sensory package. Bom could see in complete darkness, track scents across miles of terrain, and hear frequencies that would detect cloaked alien technology. His enhanced nose could identify different alien species by their unique biochemical signatures, giving human forces advance warning of incoming attacks during the Europa campaign. Colonel Park and Bom had faced creatures that would have given most humans nightmares. The Krillian warriors stood 8 feet tall on 6 legs, their chitinous armor naturally resistant to standard pulse rifles. They moved through the colony's underground tunnels like living tanks, their acid breath capable of melting through reinforced steel doors. In their first major engagement, Bom had detected an entire Krillian war party approaching the main habitat dome. His enhanced hearing picked up the vibrations of their movement through the ice tunnels to miles away, while human senses showed nothing. Bom's biological radar painted a perfect picture of 47 hostiles converging on the sleeping colonists. The battle that followed became legendary in military circles. Colonel Park coordinated the defense, while Bom moved like a shadow through the alien forces. The dog's enhanced speed allowed him to dart between the massive creatures, his reinforced teeth and claws finding weak points in their armor. He didn't kill them. His programming prioritized disabling enemies rather than destruction, but he left a trail of immobilized Krillian warriors in his wake, after Europa. They were deployed to Kepler 440b, where the native thornback lizards had been systematically destroying human supply convoys. These creatures were different from the Krillians, smaller, faster, and incredibly intelligent. They used coordinated pack tactics and had learned to disable human technology by targeting power cells and communication equipment. Bomb's tactical programming evolved during that campaign. He learned to predict the Thornback's strategies, often positioning himself to intercept their attacks before they reached human forces. His enhanced brain could process multiple combat scenarios simultaneously, choosing the optimal response in milliseconds. Colonel Park often joked that Bomb was the best tactical officer in the Colonial Defense Force, and he wasn't entirely joking. Their third deployment took them to the hellish world of Proxima Centauri C, where the native Void Stalkers hunted in the perpetual darkness. These creatures were perhaps the most terrifying enemies humanity had ever faced. Translucent, nearly invisible predators that could phase through solid matter for short periods. They had wiped out 2 entire colonies before Colonel Park and Bomb arrived. The Void Stalkers couldn't hide from Bomb's enhanced sensors, even when they phased through walls. Their unique energy signature registered on his quantum-enhanced neural implants. He could track them through dimensions that human senses couldn't even perceive. Working together, the Colonel and his partner developed new tactics that eventually drove the Stalkers back to the planet's core, saving the remaining colonists. But wars take their toll, even on enhanced soldiers. After 15 years of combat, Colonel Park's body began showing the strain of constant deployment. Bomb's cybernetic systems were still functioning perfectly, but the biological components were aging faster than expected. The enhancement process had extended his lifespan, but the stress of continuous combat operations was accelerating his cellular breakdown. They retired together, choosing to remain on Europa where their careers had begun. The Colonial Authority offered them a comfortable pension and a quiet life in New Sol Colony. For 2 decades, they had lived as ordinary civilians, their military service a closely guarded secret. Only a handful of people knew that the elderly man walking his dog through the mining district was once humanity's greatest alien fighter. Now, as the gang leader raised his shock baton with murderous intent, those dormant military systems began to wake up. Deep in Bomb's enhanced brain, quantum processors started spinning up to combat readiness. His reinforced skeleton began generating the microelectrical fields that would supercharge his muscles for maximum performance. "Please," Kwon-Su said one final time, his voice carrying the authority of a man who had commanded respect across multiple worlds. "Walk away. You don't know what you're doing." "Shut up, old man," the leader snarled, swinging his weapon toward Kwon-Su's head. That's when Bomb's eyes began to glow with a soft blue light, and 20 years of peaceful retirement came to an end. The transformation was instantaneous and terrifying. One moment Bomb appeared to be an ordinary German shepherd. The next he became something that defied human understanding. The soft blue glow emanating from his eyes wasn't just for show. It was the visible sign of quantum processors coming online, tactical systems that had been dormant for 20 years suddenly awakening with the fury of a sleeping dragon. Time seemed to slow as Bomb's enhanced brain processed the threat assessment. 5 hostile targets, multiple weapons, civilian in immediate danger. His tactical programming ran through 14 different combat scenarios in the space of a heartbeat, selecting the optimal response pattern that would neutralize all threats while minimizing casualty. The military-grade neural implants weren't just computing, they were predicting, calculating every possible movement and counter-movement with mechanical precision. The gang leader's shock baton was still cutting through the air when Bomb launched himself forward. His enhanced muscles, supercharged by microelectrical fields generated by his reinforced skeleton, propelled him with the speed of a guided missile. The biker's enhanced reflexes, boosted by cheap street drugs and basic cybernetic implants, might as well have been standing still. Bond's jaws clamped down on the leader's cybernetic wrist with surgical precision. His enhanced teeth, harder than diamond and sharper than surgical steel, didn't puncture the skin. Instead, they applied exactly 847 pounds of pressure to specific nerve clusters that his tactical systems had identified as optimal disable points. The shock baton clattered to the ground as the leader's cybernetic hand went completely numb. Impossible, the leader gasped, staring at his useless arm. What kind of dog? He never finished the sentence. Bond's enhanced reflexes allowed him to pivot on his front paws while maintaining his grip, spinning with inhuman grace that defied every law of physics the bikers thought they understood. His reinforced tail, strengthened with the same titanium steel alloy as his skeleton, swept through the air like a metallic whip. The two bikers flanking Kwang Su barely saw it coming. The tail struck them at knee level with the force of a sledgehammer, their legs buckling as they tumbled backward. Bond's tactical systems had calculated the exact angle and velocity needed to disable them without causing permanent damage. They hit the ground hard, their weapons skittering across the concrete. But they would walk again. The remaining two bikers stood frozen in terror, their brains struggling to process what they were witnessing. The woman with facial tattoos managed to raise her plasma knife, its contained flame casting dancing shadows on the fusion plant's walls. "What the hell is that thing?" she screamed. "Not a thing," Kwang Su said quietly, his voice carrying the authority of a man who had faced down alien nightmares. A soldier, the elderly colonel moved with fluid precision that belied his age. 20 years of retirement hadn't dulled his reflexes or forgotten his training. His hands found the pressure points on the tattooed woman's arm with the accuracy of a master surgeon. The plasma knife deactivated and fell from her nerveless fingers as specific nerve clusters were compressed with exactly the right amount of force. "I tried to warn you," he said softly, his voice filled with genuine regret. "You should have listened." Bond's enhanced sensors were already tracking the fifth biker, who had been trying to circle round for a flanking attack. The dog's quantum-enhanced neural implants painted a perfect three-dimensional map of the battle space, showing heat signatures, movement patterns, and threat vectors in real time. He could hear the biker's elevated heartbeat, smell his fear-induced adrenaline, and feel the micro-vibrations of his footsteps through the ground, without even turning round. Bond's powerful hind legs kicked backward with the precision of a guided missile. His enhanced muscles generated enough force to send the flanking biker flying through the air, landing in a pile of discarded mining equipment with a tremendous crash. The man groaned but remained conscious, his cheap body armor having absorbed most of the impact. The gang leader, still trapped in Bond's grip, stared in horror as his cybernetic arm began to spark and smoke. The dog's enhanced teeth hadn't just disabled his hand. They had somehow interfaced with his cybernetic systems, causing controlled feedback that shut down his artificial limbs without permanent damage. "You're military," the leader whispered, his scarred face pale with terror. "Both of you. What kind of monsters did they create?" "Not monsters," Kwang Su replied, gently placing his hand on Bond's head. The dog's glowing eyes dimmed slightly, his tactical systems scaling back to defensive mode. "Guardians, protectors. We spent 15 years defending colonies from creatures that would have given you nightmares. The entire engagement had lasted less than 30 seconds. 5 armed bikers, enhanced with cybernetic implants and carrying military-grade weapons, had been systematically dismantled by an elderly man and his dog. Not killed, not permanently injured, but completely neutralized with surgical precision. Bomb released the gang leader's wrist and stepped back, his enhanced sensors still monitoring all 5 targets for any sign of renewed aggression. His tactical systems remained active, ready to respond to any threat. But the immediate danger had passed. The soft blue glow in his eyes faded to almost nothing. Though careful observers might notice they remained slightly brighter than a normal. "Dogs, my granddaughter is still sick," Kwang-Soo said calmly. Adjusting his worn jacket, "I need to get her medicine home." He began walking toward the habitat domes, Bomb falling into step beside him as if nothing had happened. Behind them, 5 of the most dangerous criminals in the outer colonies lay groaning on the ground, their weapons scattered and useless, their confidence shattered by the realization that they had just attacked humanity's most classified military assets. The legend of the Void Riders had just come to an abrupt end. The emergency beacon embedded in Bomb's collar had activated the moment his combat systems came online, sending an encrypted signal directly to Colonial Security Headquarters. The transmission wasn't just a distress call. It was a complete tactical report, including biometric data on all 5 attackers, their weapon specifications, and a full holographic recording of the encounter captured by micro-cameras built into Bomb's enhanced eyes. Chief Hyjin Kim had been reviewing crime reports when her communication panel erupted in urgent alerts. The system was flagging a priority Alpha incident, the highest classification reserved for encounters involving classified military assets. She grabbed her pulse rifle and emergency kit, calling for immediate backup as she raced toward the mining district. The convoy of Colonial security vehicles approached the abandoned fusion plant with their lights flashing in the distinctive red and blue pattern that marked official law enforcement. The hover cars moved silently through the artificial atmosphere, their anti-gravity engines producing only a soft humming sound. Chief Kim's vehicle took the lead, followed by 2 prisoner transport units and a medical response team as they crested the hill overlooking the plant. Chief Kim could see the aftermath of the encounter. 5 figures lay scattered across the concrete, their weapons glinting in the artificial moonlight. Standing calmly in the center of the scene were an elderly man and his German shepherd, both appearing completely unharmed despite having just faced down one of the most dangerous gangs in the outer colonies. "Medical team, stand by," Chief Kim spoke intercommunicator. "We have 5 subjects down, but they appear to be conscious and breathing." The security vehicles formed a perimeter around the scene as officers disembarked with their weapons ready. They had been briefed on the Void Riders' capabilities and weren't taking any chances. Each officer wore full tactical armor and carried enough firepower to stop a small army. Chief Kim approached Kwang-Soo with obvious respect, her stride confident but deferential. She had been briefed on his true identity when she took over as security chief 3 years ago. The Colonial Authority maintained detailed files on all retired military personnel living in the outer colonies, especially those who had been involved in classified operations. "Colonel Park," she said with a slight bow, the gesture carrying genuine reverence. "Officer Bomb." The elderly man's face remained impassive, but his eyes held a hint of amusement. "Just civilians now, Chief Kim. Have been for 20 years. Of course, sir," she replied with a slight smile. "Though I notice our civilian friends here seem to have encountered some difficulty." Behind her, the medical team was examining the 5 bikers. Despite their obvious discomfort, none of them appeared to have sustained serious injuries. The gang leader's cybernetic arm was completely non-functional, sparking occasionally as its systems attempted to reboot. The others were conscious but dazed, their enhanced reflexes apparently no match for whatever had happened to them. "Enhanced canine units," one of the medics reported over the comm system. surgical precision on all disabled points. Whoever did this had extensive knowledge of human anatomy and cybernetic systems. Chief Kim nodded, unsurprised. BOM's combat programming included detailed medical databases that allowed him to neutralize threats without causing permanent damage. It was a capability that had saved countless lives during the alien wars, allowing human forces to capture rather than kill when possible. The prisoner transport units moved into position as officers began loading the defeated bikers. Each transport was equipped with specialized containment systems designed to handle enhanced criminals. Energy dampeners would prevent any cybernetic weapons from functioning, while neural suppressors would keep augmented reflexes from causing problems during transport. As the gang leader was lifted onto a stretcher, he turned his head toward BOM, with a mixture of fear and fascination. "That's not a normal dog," he whispered, his voice filled with awe. "I've seen military working dogs before. They don't move like that. They don't think like that." Chief Kim followed his gaze to where BOM sat calmly beside Kwang-Soo, his appearance completely ordinary except for the slight blue glow that still lingered in his eyes. "No, he's not normal." She agreed quietly. "None of our retired heroes are." The confession sent a chill through the other bikers. They had assumed they were dealing with an isolated incident, but Chief Kim's words suggested something much larger. How many other ordinary civilians in the outer colonies were actually retired military assets? How many pets were actually enhanced combat units? The whole colony. The tattooed woman gasped as she was loaded into the transport. "How many of you are there?" Chief Kim's smile was enigmatic. "Enough." The transport doors sealed shut with a hydraulic hiss, and the vehicles began their journey back to the detention center. The Void Riders would face charges for assault, weapons violations, and operating an illegal criminal organization. Their sentences would likely keep them off the streets for decades. As the convoy departed, Chief Kim turned back to Kwang-Soo. "The Colony Council has been discussing our security situation. Crime rates have increased 40% since the mining expansion began. We're getting reports of hostile alien activity in the outer sectors, and our current security forces aren't equipped to handle enhanced threats." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "We have young officers who could benefit from training with someone who has actual combat experience, real experience, not just simulation programs." Kwang-Soo looked down at BOM, whose cybernetic implants had already powered down to standby mode. To any casual observer, he looked like an ordinary pet again, his enhanced systems dormant, but ready to activate at a moment's notice. The transformation was remarkable, from living weapon to loyal companion in mere seconds. "What do you think, old friend?" Kwang-Soo asked, his voice carrying the affection of 2 decades of partnership. "Ready to teach the next generation?" BOM's tail wagged once, a simple gesture that carried the weight of agreement from a soldier who had never failed a mission, 6 months after the encounter at the fusion plant. New Sol Colony had transformed into something unprecedented in the Outer Rim territories. Crime rates had plummeted to near zero, and for the first time in years, children played in the streets after dark. The change wasn't due to increased security patrols or advanced surveillance systems. It was because of partnerships that defied conventional understanding of what was possible between humans and animals. The training facility that Kwang-Soo had established occupied an entire section of the colonies. Military District, what had once been empty warehouses, now housed the most advanced canine training program in human space. But these weren't ordinary police dogs being trained alongside human officers. These were enhanced creatures, each one a unique fusion of biological evolution and cutting-edge technology. Officer Tae-min stood in the facility's main training arena, watching his partner Soo-bin demonstrate tracking techniques to a group. Of rookie officers, the Wolf's cybernetic enhancements were more subtle than Bomb's, but no less impressive. Su Bin's enhanced olfactory system could track scents across vast distances. Even in the artificial atmosphere of the colony domes, his neural implants allowed him to process complex tactical information and communicate silently with his human partner through a sophisticated thought-link system. Contact established. Tynion reported, his voice carrying the calm confidence of someone who had trained under the best. Su Bin has located the target, 3 clicks northeast. Moving toward the atmospheric processes, the target was a training exercise, but the skills being demonstrated were very real. Su Bin's enhanced senses had detected traces of alien pheromones that human instruments couldn't register in the real world. Such capabilities had already proven invaluable in detecting hostile alien infiltrators who had been terrorizing Outer Rim colonies for months. HS. High above the training ground, Officer Yunjicho guided her cybernetic Falcon Hanyul through complex aerial maneuvers. The bird's enhanced vision could detect movement across multiple light spectrums, while her reinforced wings allowed her to fly in atmospheric conditions that would ground natural birds. Hanyul's neural implants were linked to the colony's defense network, making her a living early warning system against aerial threats. Perimeter sweep complete. Yunji reported through her comm system. All clear in sectors 7 through 12. Wait. I'm detecting unusual energy signatures near the old mining platform. The energy signatures turned out to be smugglers trying to establish a new operation in the abandoned mining tunnels within minutes. Ground teams guided by Hanyul's enhanced vision had surrounded the criminals. The smugglers surrendered without resistance, having heard the stories about what happened to those who chose to fight New Sol Colony's enhanced security forces. Word of the colony's transformation had spread throughout the criminal underworld. Like wildfire, the Void Riders had been just the beginning. Every gang, smuggling operation, and criminal organization in the Outer Rim now knew that certain colonies were protected by something far more dangerous than conventional security forces. They were guarded by retired military personnel and their enhanced animal companions, sleeping guardians who had spent decades fighting humanity's enemies across multiple star systems. The notorious Red Nebula pirates had learned this lesson the hard way when they attempted to raid a supply convoy bound for a New Sol colony. What should have been an easy target turned into a nightmare when the convoy's security dogs revealed themselves to be enhanced combat units. The pirates who survived the encounter spoke in hushed tones about wolves that moved like shadows, and dogs that could predict their tactics before they made them. Even the alien criminal cartels had begun avoiding human colonies with known enhanced canine units. The Zephyrian Syndicate, which had been terrorizing Outer Rim settlements for years, had abandoned their expansion plans after losing 3 separate raiding parties to enhanced animal-human teams. Their biomechanical scouts couldn't compete with creatures that combined natural instincts with cybernetic enhancement. In the training facility, Quan Su watched Bomb work with a new group of recruits. The old dog moved with the same precision and grace that had made him legendary in military circles. His enhanced systems still operated perfectly after decades of service. A testament to the quality of the original enhancement program. Young officers and their animal partners learned not just tactics and techniques, but the deeper truth about the bonds that made such partnerships possible. The enhancement technology is impressive, Chief Kim observed, watching a young officer practice tactical communications with his enhanced bear companion. But what really makes this work is the relationship between the partners. Quan Su nodded, his weathered face showing the satisfaction of a teacher watching his students excel. The cybernetic implants and physical enhancements are just tools. What matters is trust, loyalty, the willingness to put your partner's safety above your own. He gestured toward the training arena, where dozens of human-animal teams were practicing complex maneuvers. Every one of these partnerships represents years of training, bonding, and mutual respect. The aliens we fought during the expansion wars understood this. They knew that humanity's greatest strength wasn't our technology. It was our ability to form bonds with other species. A soft chime echoed through the facility, indicating the end of the training session. As the officers and their partners began filing out, Quansu remained behind with Bomb. The old dog padded over to his human companion, his enhanced eyes reflecting the artificial lighting of the training facility. "You know," Quansu said, his voice carrying the weight of decades of experience, "humanity didn't conquer the galaxy alone. We had partners, loyal friends who never asked for glory. Only the chance to serve beside us." Ban looked up at him, and for a moment the earth seemed to fall away. They were no longer a retired colonel and his aging canine partner, but the legendary team that had defended 3 colonies from alien threats. The bond between them, forged in combat across multiple worlds, remained as strong as ever. In the distance, the lights of New Sol Colony twinkled against the star-filled sky of Europa. Families walked safely through streets that had once been controlled by criminal gangs. Children played in parks where smugglers had once operated. The transformation was complete, but the Guardians remained vigilant. The galaxy was vast and often dangerous, filled with hostile alien species, criminal organizations, and threats that humanity was only beginning to understand. But as long as humans and their enhanced companions stood together, the innocent would always have protectors watching over them, even the ones who appeared to be just ordinary pets walking beside elderly civilians on quiet evening strolls. The legend of the enhanced canine units spread throughout human space, carried by traders, colonists, and military personnel who had witnessed their capabilities firsthand. But the truth behind the legend was simpler and more profound than most people realized. It wasn't about the technology or the enhancements. It was about the unbreakable bond between species that had chosen to stand together against the darkness of an uncertain galaxy. The end.